Hi, so I'm John again, and this time we'll be showing you a multimeter. A multimeter is a device or an instrument that people use to measure electrical amperage and electrical voltage and many other things too. Some multimeters comes with other functions, but we're going to go on with an auto-ranging multimeter that will measure voltage, resistance, and amperage. And we'll do a temperature check and a continuity check too. But for now, we'll show you just how to use it. Always use this within the limits. Usually there's a warning on how much amperage you can push through. Generally, that's about 10 amps and how much voltage you can use. Always double check with what you're working at and what you're using it for. Otherwise, it becomes dangerous. But let's get started. One of the first things of any multimeters is we can check the voltage of stuff. Now we're going to plug in the leads. The leads will help you test any electricity you need. There are multiple leads that come with your multimeter probably. I'm going to use these because I just like these a little better. And plus I want to attach my own tips to them. Now that we have our multimeter on and ready to voltage, it's probably better to turn it off and first plug in our test leads. And the first thing we can do is plug in the negative positives or the COM positives. They're color coded, so it's very obvious where it should be. And we can see over here, there are markings and symbols for where you want to plug in them into, depending on what you want to do with them. So since we want to measure voltage, which is V, and this is V over here, we will want to plug in our red lead into here, like so. After we plug them in, we can start by turning it to V, and then we need to measure voltage, in this case, DC voltage. One of the most common uses is to test if your batteries are dead or not. And what you do is you can take a battery, you get a battery like this. On that battery, it will tell you the type, and it will tell you what kind of voltage it has. In this case, this AAA battery will have 1.2 volts, just like that. And we can simply check if it's full charge by putting this to the positive terminal and the negative lead to the bottom negative terminal. And over here, you should get a reading on your multimeter, and we could see it's 1.3 volts. That means the voltage in this battery should be good. On a dead or lower charge battery, it should be less than that, or a little bit below 1.2. If it's below 1.2, we can tell the battery is bad and it either needs recharging or you just need a new battery. But that's one of the most common uses. Another thing we can do is we have to check to make sure that voltage is coming out properly from certain things, like this board over here. So you just plug it in. We see over here how much voltage it claims to output, right? It should output 3 volts, and we can make sure that it actually does by doing this. As we can see, despite claiming it's 3 volts, it's just a little bit underpowered. It might be from the power source, but it tells us that. Because of that, we understand that maybe it's just not outputting enough power, or maybe it's outputting too much power. But this is one of the most common things you can test for, to see if your electronics are telling you the truth or are just giving the right information. Another common usage of this is something called continuity. So in order to do that, we flick it over to the continuity sign, and we want to hit it so it's on the right one. And it should be the one that has the little speaker next to it. And yep, there it is. It'll have this symbol right over here. And it makes a noise when you have continuous power. That tells you electricity is flowing through. And the best way to test it is like this. That tells you that electricity can flow through from this end to this end, or this end to this end, and vice versa. That's important when you're looking for broken wires. If your wires are broken, this is a quick way to test it. Or if a light bulb is broken, or a fuse is broken. You can do it with anything. When you do this to this, there is no electricity, there is no connection. Therefore, it won't form, it won't make the beeping sound because it's not a continuous connection. If you connect it to N, it should form a continuous connection. Yep, and I'll tell you just like that. Some multimeters come with extra functionality where beyond amperage and beyond resistance, you can test temperature. They come up with something like this. And all it is really simple. You just plug it into the comms and the temperature one. Some of them have a special designated place for it, but in this case, it just shares it with this one. You plug it in, and then you flick it to temperature, like so. And you have to hit the right selection. And it'll give you the temperature in Celsius. Currently, it's 27 degrees, 26 degrees Celsius, just up in the air. And if you put my hand around it, it should slowly but surely start to climb up to about 98 degrees Fahrenheit, which is normal temperature for a human, but I'm not exactly sure what that is in Celsius. But as you can see, it's working. If we take it off, it will immediately start to cool down. Well, not immediately, but it will start to cool down eventually because it takes its temperature and it's climbing down now. If we put it into a bottle of water or ice, it will just continuously go down, but it takes its temperature reading, and this is helpful whenever you want to stick it somewhere that, like a hot engine or someplace that's super hot and you don't want to put your hand there. And it's pretty accurate depending on what kind of sensor you use. But yep, these are the most common things that you can use a multimeter for. Another thing, a special feature of this particular multimeter is it comes with a non-contact voltage detector. And what that does is detect if voltage is flowing through anything that's live. Something that you don't want to hook it up to because it will probably blow up the leads or blow up this multimeter, but something that you want to check if electricity is flowing through. So in order to do that, all you have to do is hit it down here, and it will beep if it comes to anything where it draws power. But this has to be a pretty high range of power, so let's go look for that. Okay. So this outlet is currently connected to this power strip, which is being used by some electronics in my house. So I'm gonna put it next to it. That beeping is telling me it's drawing a lot of electricity, or a decent amount of electricity, and that's what you would use something like this for. It's very handy for something that you perhaps don't want to stick two leads into, and you just want to check if there's some sort of electricity flowing through. Yep, these are some basic functionalities of a multimeter. Hope this was helpful for you guys.